Clearly, Hollywood and novelists alike have a thirsty fetish for wiping out the human race, and I'm here to say it's just a cheap form of storytelling. Just goddamn stop!
It's time to stop!
Avengers Infinity War and many of the stories I will be discussing in this video, such as Flashpoints and Crisis on Infinite Earths, are actually some of my favorite stories in all of comic books. I'm not talking about whether they're good or bad. I'm looking at them from an emotional engagement perspective. Meaning, do I cry? Do I feel the emotional tension of the entire planet going kaboom? So, with that out of the way, can't feel jack shit. There's this false assumption in the publishing industry, especially in the comic book industry, that a better story is one with more stakes. While that is ultimately true, they just assume if you slap together every character in the existing continuity, you will generate a good story. Crisis on Infinite Flashpoints, Identity Crisis, Infinite Crisis, Fall of the Mutants, Civil War, Infinity Gauntlet, and many more were the result of this fuzzy understanding of how stories actually engage the reader and what an emotionally engaging story is. Again, I don't hate these stories, and I'm not denying that they can be entertaining, because I would be lying if I said that. What I'm talking about is how they honestly do not engage me. In a story where everyone in the planet is to die soon, I simply keep on rolling my eyes. This problem goes deeper because DC isn't exempt either. Anyhow, let me run a small experiment to demonstrate what I mean. Let's say a bakery girl was found dead by a trash can near her house at Park Avenue. Now let's say two other dudes were found dead behind McDonald's. There is a clear understanding for the difference between these two scenarios because it's normal for us to comprehend things at a single-digit scale. It's when things dip into the double-digit numbers that the emotional impact of the event ceases and the whole thing devolves into an acknowledgement of the trauma brought forth rather than feeling it. This is ultimately thanks to how the human brain functions. Put it simply, it is very difficult for us to grasp things we do not deal with on a daily basis. That doesn't mean we cannot comprehend normal things like theoretical physics, which we don't deal with in our daily lives, but I'm talking about things that go into the billions. Daniel Ansari, an academic at the Numerical Cognition Laboratory at Western University, said, explaining the perception of large numbers, quote, "Our cognitive systems are very much tied to our perceptions. For example, when you lay the table, you ask your child, how many knives do we need? It's never going to be 10,000 knives unless you have a very large dinner table." Quote, "This is why our emotional attachment to a scenario as contrived as the world is going to end is as dim of an involvement as any can be." In other words, I don't give a fuck. To prove, let's say 399 people died yesterday. Reason isn't important, but let's state that. Now, what if I were to tell you, actually, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. It was actually 400 people, not 399 people. What would you feel, huh? Any difference? Was the blunt of the feeling much like the one in the girl versus the two guys scenario? Most likely not as stark of an emotional difference. That's not forgetting there is a person that died. He could have been called Jimmy, and Jimmy could have been a loving father of 3 children, functioning member of society, and a church goer. Maybe Jimmy was helping a homeless guy when the terrorist came in like a car without brakes. Who knows? Yet you're probably like, whatever, I guess so. At the end of the day, we don't do that well when we're dealing with numbers that are not common in our daily lives. So these stories where the whole planet, 7.66 billion mother effing people are going to die, are so exaggerated that the person actually stops feeling any emotions for the billions of people whose lives are at stake. As far as I know, a moment like this or this made me tear up, whereas a moment like this actually made me shrug. I was still like, hell nah, he didn't do that, but emotionally, I was not involved. This is despite the fact that the main conflict in the story is about saving the world. It's as if this world-ending trope destroys tension. Tension killer. When it comes to the end of the world scenarios, tension is a sacrificial lamb. This point expands on the first one, and that as a person, you can only feel things to a certain point. Beyond that, the emotional tether is splintered and whatever emotion left is but a dim light. Again, what is tension but emotional engagement? Marvel and DC have always been the greatest offenders of this trope. So let's examine recent productions. Justice League. The Justice League. Where do I even start. There is no tension in this movie, and unlike
Avengers Infinity War
or
The Dark Knight,
there are no characters. If you watch this movie and think any of these 6 films are anywhere near as good as other versions of the same characters, then you are either swallowed by your own bitty devotion to DC or simply have no standards. If it's devotion, then I can understand. Those Marvel fanboys are having a tipsy with their flashy movies. If it's ignorance though, let me educate. This is George. George has a soft skin. It's very prone to being stabbed. This is Hannibal. He's a creep, hates children, and wants to stab George. Look, what's going on? Hannibal is moving in. Oh my god. This was a simple demonstration of how flaws and being prone to stabbings are very effective at spiking tension. Now watch this montage.
So, how do I help?
We buy him some time, he can stop that box from destroying all life on Earth.
At this point, it's more about the splashy visual effects than it's about the characters in real danger. And the visuals are not even that good. More to the point, the world is going to end. Do you feel it? Do you? Huh? Do you care? Compare this movie to Avengers Infinity War, who got more things right. Not all things, but hey, nothing is perfect, right? At points, there is genuine tension, and even though I knew Vision was going to be nailed later on, I still felt for him. However, let's go a level deeper. Compare Avengers Infinity War, a world ender, to local B-listers over at Netflix, Daredevil, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage. These 3 TV shows and others from DC CW shows like Flash and Arrow display a far better grip on engaging me as a viewer than any MCU or DCEU movie. They are fantastic examples of what digging the world is ending scenario can bring forth. They, instead of focusing on the world is ending and some shiny gem hidden somewhere, focus on the characters, which brings us to the final issue I have with these world is ending stories. Diverts attention from the character. Okay, I'm not against world-ending stories, I just don't like how they screw over characters. Rarely have I seen a story where the world is going to end have character development. Okay, answer this. What's more satisfying than character growth? Cocaine, that's what.
Whoa! Damn, man, look at that, look!
But seriously, as far as the storytelling goes, character growth is up there with cocaine. When the main struggle in the story is about saving the whole planet from going kaboom, then there probably isn't going to be that much time devoted to exploring the heart of the story, the character. And instead time will be allocated to spouting exposition about the plan and the magical gem buried within the core of the sun that will enable the heroes to save the planet. Good writers are those who really balance between the act of the world going kaboom and the characters developing. We Are the Ants is another favorite example of mine, and it centers around Henry, who is given a chance to save the world with the click of a button. But there is a problem. Henry is hesitating to save the world. Reason? As the opening line of the novel puts it, life is bullshit. It's an amazing twist on a rather tired cliche. The hero is having difficulty saving the world because he thinks it's all shit. Super interesting and 10 out of 10 for creativity. Stories like We Are the Ants are super rare though. From what I've observed in comic books where this end of the world trope is rampant, there's almost always never a character development. Instead, everyone is obsessed on finding the next gem or the next super laser that will stretch like a wild dildo. So, now we have stated the problems, how do we fix it? Solution number uno. Keep the focus on the human, the character in the story, like Daredevil or Luke Cage. Again, focus can still be on the individual when the world is going kaboom. For example, the movie is centered on the team and overcoming their ever so human fueled discontent for each other. Once they do, it's glorious. Second one is to actually destroy the world and to follow wherever that intriguing rabbit hole leads you. Like in The Drowned World, where the protagonist is actually a bit ecstatic about the disaster that wiped out most of the human race. So I have a fun game for you to play. Rewatch or reread some of your favorite stories about the end of the world and vote for the villain who is trying to destroy the world. I swear you'll have so much fun. The entire cast of heroes all of a sudden look like scheming little bastards trying to get the poor poor villain. And you know at the back of your head the villain is going to lose. But damn, those scheming heroes. Anyhow, that's it for today's video. Have a nice life.